before his descendants were even in Mitzrayim to be enslaved in the first place, to have to go out. That's what the Medrash says. And this next point is very deep and very Kabbalistic, and I can't really explain it to you because it just takes too much time to go all the background. But just to appreciate why matzah is so central. According to Kabbalah, the main tikkun to creation, tikkun ma'aser bereshis, or expression tikkun ma'aser bereshis, where Hashem made the world, He fixed up everything and made this world that exists the way it does right now. The actual tikkun to ma'aser bereshis is defined, again, it's conceptual, it's not like, as simple as it sounds, but the actual concept is, if you look at the word chametz and you look at the word matzah, they're almost identical. The only difference is that as chametz has a ches and matzah has a hey, right? But the ches and the hey, they're very similar to each other, right? You just have to break the leg of the ches, the left leg of the ches, and you have a hey. So Kabbalah says that the actual tikkun to make creation, make it long before Adam Rishon's existing, long before there's a Chet Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, long before the Jewish people are Mitzrayim, the actual tikkun is defined as the breaking of the ches's leg to make a hay, to go from chametz to matzah. That's how central matzah is to all of history. All of history. We're not eating it just to commemorate what happened back then. We're eating it specifically because that's what Pesach is all about. The Maharal has a whole explanation. He talks about how matzah is just flour and water. Therefore, it represents pashtus, simplicity of the world to come. It corresponds to the yud, the only letter that's not a composite. Other letters in the aleph base, they're all composites of other letters, except for the yud. It's by itself. So therefore, it symbolizes the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So it tells us, right, that we're supposed to be, freedom is a spiritual reality we're supposed to be striving towards. And the matzah symbolizes it because matzah is also pashtus, also simplicity. But the main question remains, why did we have to, fine, so we have to eat matzah, but why did we leave so quickly? And if anything's nafachu, right, this is it. This is not Purim, this is Pesach, but Purim is really the introduction to Pesach. It's the hachana for Pesach. It's like putting on glasses, right? When you're born, right, you hopefully have perfect eyesight, and you have it for many, many years, maybe 20s and 30s and whatever. At some point, then you can't see so well anymore. So you buy glasses to compensate for the lack of vision, the lack of clarity. We didn't need Purim for the first 1,000 years after we left Mitzrayim. Pesach was Pesach. But as time went on, and we lost our way, and we became confused about our identity, and we were affected by the nations. We went into galus amongst all these things. So we needed Purim like glasses to focus us in advance so we can get out of Pesach what Pesach has to offer. Which is what, in the end? What are we supposed to be getting from Pesach? Well, let's just answer the first question first. Why? Yeah.
80% of us didn't leave, though.
Yes, and there's a reason why. This is all tied into that reason, which we'll get to, B'ezras Hashem, after, give me a minute or two, or maybe in 2 hours or so. But the question is, back to the original question, is why we had to leave so quickly? The answer is not to save the Jewish people, to save the Egyptians. The Jewish people were rushed out of Mitzrayim to save the Mitzrayim. What? Why? It wasn't the whole point, wasn't the whole exercise to destroy them, to get rid of them, right? And you're saving them? Well, first of all, what does that even mean? Well, because you have to understand, every makkah, every plague was an increased amount of God's light in the world, and the more you increase the light of God in the world, the more it suppresses evil. According to the Sfarim, right, according to Kabbalah, that the Sitra Achra, the Sitra Achra, the Satan, that angel that's constantly on our nerves, constantly, real pain in the neck, always trying to interfere with our spiritual growth in one way or another, right? He was on the verge of destruction. Leil Seder, he was this close to being completely destroyed. Of course, in Mashiach's time, Messianic era, he will be destroyed. The Gemara says in Sukkah that Kosh Baruch Hu is going to shech the Yetzer Hara. It's all part of the same idea. Just whatever it just means that evil will be gone from the world completely. There'll be no more stumbling blocks for anybody. We'll all see the truth and we'll all live by the truth. But it seems like we had an opportunity back in Mitzrayim. If that's what has to happen at the end of history, So then why not have it happen then? Why save Mitzrayim? Just because God's light's increasing. Great, let it keep increasing. And destroy the evil, destroy the Egyptians, and begin the Messiah again. Why did Kosh Baruch Hu decide this is not the time yet? Why did he interfere with the process? Why did he arrest the process in the end? And the answer is because the Jewish people never did anything to get to that point. It was all a gift. If Hashem hadn't begun the first plague, Makas Dam at the very beginning, we would have assimilated. We would have lost our identity completely. We would have just disappeared as a people. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, history. Nothing left behind whatsoever. So Hashem, he interfered. He stopped into history, turned it upside down to make sure it didn't happen. Each of the Makkos along the way increased our revelation, increased our understanding and perspective of what we're supposed to be like. But again, it was all imposed from the outside. It's like somebody who's being handed the answers to the test each time, the exam, before they write it, right? You end up getting 90%, 100%, whatever. But is it really yours? Because you were given the answers. You're fed the answers in advance. So whatever you're answering, it's not showing how much you actually know. It's just showing how much you can remember by looking at the answer. That's what it was like for Klal Yisrael. We never, ever, and this is the point, we never chose Geula for ourselves the entire time. If at any point in time the Jewish people in Mitzrayim had said, you know something? We've lost our way. We're supposed to be anticipating redemption. There's a mitzvah in the Gemara itself. The Gemara brings down, there's a parenthetical, but the Gemara brings down that we have 6 things they ask you on Yom Adin. You heard about these 6 things? Shabbos, Lamed Amad, for those who do Daf Yomi, right? Shabbos, Lamed Amad Aleph, right? Mention 6 things that they're going to, Lamed Aleph, 6 things they're going to ask you on Yom Adin, right? Did you deal honestly in business? Did you try to have children? Right? Did you establish times for learning Torah? I always forget. It's like a shopping list. 5 out of 6, but did you? And then it gets this one. All of them, in themselves are kind of like interesting because of all the mitzvahs we had to do. Why these specifically? But we can see that you learn Torah. That you learn, from your Torah how to learn. I don't think, But there's one mitzvah in there that's very interesting. It's called Tzipisa Yeshua. That's the language. They're going to ask you on Yom Hadin, of the 6 things they're going to ask a Jew on their day of judgment, is going to be Tzipisa Yeshua. Did you anticipate redemption? What does it mean to anticipate redemption? What does it mean to anticipate anything? If I'm flying some point in the day, my whole day revolves around that flight. I'm thinking myself, I'm planning that's the starting. I got to have the airport by a certain time, 3 hours at the airport. You have to plan. So you're anticipating. If you don't anticipate, you're going to be late. You might even miss your flight in the end. You can't work like that. So the same thing, you have to anticipate redemption. But here's an amazing thing, is that Sefer Mitzvahs Hakat, and Smak for short, right? He asked the question, okay, all the other mitzvahs that were mentioned, all these other halachas mentioned, they're going to ask you on Yom Adin. We have sources for. We know what the sources are. We understand where they come from. This one mitzvah, Tzipisa Yeshua, who says I'm obligated? Where does it come from? Where's the mitzvah? It's a good thing. Obviously, you have to anticipate redemption for sure. Why not? The arrival of Mashiach b'chol yom. Even if he tarries, I'm always waiting for Mashiach to come. It's a good thing. It's one of the 13 Ikarim. If you don't do it, what are you over? What sin have you actually committed? Not so much, but it affects you over time. You should do it. You should do it. But a mitzvah of Tzipisa Yeshua, where does it come from? So he says an interesting thing. He says, actually, the mitzvah of Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Tzitzecha Mitzrayim. I'm the Lord your God who took you out of Mitzrayim. That's the source of the mitzvah. That's what he says. Right? How do you see that? Where does it come from that? That's the first of the 10 Commandments, first of all. But he said, where does it come from that? He says, why does it mention Mitzrayim? Just say, I'm the Lord your God, period. Do you need more than that? Because first of all, who put us down there in the first place? That's the classic, joke that people always make. Great, you're the God who took us out of Mitzrayim. You're also the God who put us down in Mitzrayim. Don't put us down. Don't take us out, and we're even, right? And we don't need a holiday and chometz and matzah and all that. You mind your business. We'll mind our business. We won't ask you for anything. What do you mean? I took it at Mitzrayim. You better take us to Mitzrayim. You took us down there, so take us back out again. Why mention Mitzrayim? So he says, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying that, I promised to take you out of Mitzrayim, and I fulfilled that promise. I want you to believe that just like I took you out of Mitzrayim the first time, I will take you out of exile the final time too. It might take thousands of years, but you have to have emunah. You have to have belief that the final redemption will eventually come. Just like the first one came, the final one will come. And the truth is that the final one anyhow is just the completion of the first one, because we never completed Yetziat Mitzrayim. That's why every Jew, every year, has to look at themselves as if they too left Mitzrayim, because we are. All of us have been leaving Mitzrayim now for thousands of years. And that's the reason why the end of days is called Ketz HaYamin, right? It should just be Ketz Yamin. What is Ketz HaYamin? Ketz HaYamin means the end of those days. End of days would just be Ketz Yamin, right? So why is it HaYamin? Which days are we talking about? Well, the Gematria of Ketz is 190. How many years did we leave Mitzrayim early? 190. So therefore, Ketz HaYamin is really the end finally of the 190 years, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out early, but he didn't forgive us. Right? You want to pay back the mortgage over a longer period of time? The bank's not going to say, well, forget it anyhow. They're not going to say, okay, we'll split it up, add more interest, whatever, but you still got to pay it back. There's only one exile, really, and only one redemption from Mitzrayim. And Bavel and Medai and Yavin and Edom, they're just subsets of the main one. They're all just aspects of Mitzrayim that we didn't complete while we were there. We finally got out. So it turns out that that's the only exile and redemption that matters the most. So when it says that the same way I took you out the first time, I'll take you out the second time, means I'll complete. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu comes back as Mashiach. You know that Moshe Rabbeinu is Mashiach, right? He comes back for an encore, curtain call, end of history, to finish off what he started. What about the fact he has to come from Yehuda? So the body will be from Yehuda, but the soul will be Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama. He actually is the one who will be inside Mashiach, who will finally, which is one of the reasons we haven't had Mashiach until now. I mean, I'm sure he's sitting somewhere in Eretz Israel today, right? But he hasn't appeared yet, so to speak, because just like Moshe Rabbeinu himself took 79 years to develop before he finally was called upon, likewise, Mashiach also, the Jewish people go through a certain development process as well till we get to the point where Kosh Baruch Hu can send them. Yeah.
But I've heard that it can go either way. The Jewish people can all keep 2 Shabboses,
Right.
or we can all become complete Amharitzes, and then we
Yeah.
have to be saved. So,
And
how is that
which one's it sounding like?
diametrically opposite?
Yeah.
It's like if you wanted to shoot basketball,
Right.
you would practice on the hoops every day. To do nothing badly, you'd have to practice doing nothing all day.
Yeah. Actually, there's a wonderful sefer that I learn on an ongoing basis. It's called Achris Gereshis. It's the sefer itself is new, but it's actually all the Ramchal and the Vilna Gaon about all these issues to do with the end of days. Achris Gereshis means that final redemption will be like the first one, and they discuss all these things. And the truth is, it comes down to Gemara in Sanhedrin. I don't know if you're familiar with the Gemara in Tzadei Zayin Amud Beis.
This week, didn't we? I think on the Daf Yomi. It was just last week.
That's right, because someone actually sent me something about that they were doing. But in Tzadei Zayin Amud Beis, right, there's a machlokus between Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shua, right? And the Gemara says over there, Rabbi Elazar says, if the Jewish people do tshuva, then the Gula will come. If he doesn't, we don't, then he won't come, right? Rabbi Yeshua says, chas v'chalila, right? Chas v'chalila, that would be the case. And there's no way the Gula is not going to come. It has to be redemption, because Baruch Hu promises for sure there's going to be redemption.